So I was curating shows at the Sorenson studio where we are today, and I met a lot of artists, made friends with many people, and through that process, visiting artists' homes and galleries, I was seeing some figurative work, and it was usually kind of tucked away in the back, not showing, and I'd ask them to pull it out. Told him how good it was and said, why aren't you showing this anywhere? And I started getting comments like, where? Here in Fresno? Where are you going to show this? So it sort of planted a seed, and I was moving forward with some ideas for shows in the future. This was probably June, July of 2003. And so I went up to Chris, and Mr. Sorenson and I were having a discussion about the shows, and I said, well, can we have a nude show? And Chris loves to tell the story about how his hearing isn't so good, and when I said, can we have a nude show, he thought I said, can we have a new show? And he said, you do whatever you want with the gallery, Michael, you've been doing a good job. So we came up with Nudes in November.
Welcome to the 18th annual Nudes in November exhibit at the Chris Sorenson Studio in Fresno, California. For almost 2 decades, it has been the most popular fine art exhibit in Central California. We have all been challenged by the quarantine for the COVID-19 pandemic, especially the art community. Art galleries have closed, Art Hop has been canceled, and artists have lost exhibits and sales. Like many groups, we look for ways to continue. We decided to hang the show as in the past. If we were able to open it up, we would be on the walls for all to see. To reduce exposure to our community, we decided to change to an online entry system. When it became obvious that we would not be open to the public, we opted for this virtual opening. All of those decisions resulted in the smallest show we've had. But one of the biggest surprises was our promotion on social media brought in entries from across the country. We have artists from Boston, New York, Chicago, and San Francisco that entered what we thought was a regional exhibit. Because the show might not be able to open to the public, we did not solicit donors for prize money as in the past. It would simply be a percentage of the entry fees that would go to the artists. To our pleasant surprise, we received an anonymous donation that makes this year's awards respectable. Awards are based on the number of entries in a category. We require 3 entries in a category to award first place. There need to be 5 entries to award first and second place. Categories with over 7 entries would have first, second, and third places awarded. Best of show would be decided by the judges from the first place winners. Chris Sorenson has always strived to promote and encourage artists from beginners to professionals. Because of this, an artist may only win 1 prize no matter how many categories they enter. They will receive the highest prize they are entitled to from the categories entered. Simply, an artist getting votes that entitled them to a first place in one category and a third place in another category would only be awarded a first place. They would not receive the third place award in the second category. Because of our ability to digitally process photographs, if an image is overly manipulated, it moves from photography to digital art. This year's winner is Joni Constable. She was not comfortable being interviewed, but here's what she told us about her metal print past encounters. Joni says that the human form is the basis of all art and science. Creating the human form can show the beauty and ugliness in life. A past participant in Nudes in November, Joni told us there was no story or inspiration for the creation of this artwork. She did explain how she made it. I went to my vintage nudes files, started layering. The text came from a book that belonged to my grandparents. Drawing is one of the oldest forms of art. Lisa Spores talks about what drawing this self-portrait meant to her.
I think that a lot of artists have used self-portraiture as a means of making a statement about themselves as an artist or as a character, a figure. I think what this piece does is achieve something I have always struggled with, believing that I possess a beauty of a natural human being.
Mixed painting is one of the categories that we combined to get enough entries to make awards for first and second place. We combined acrylic paintings and watercolor for this category. Amy Morgan used acrylic dyes on silk for her painting Allegory of the Mighty San Joaquin River.
I enjoy the human figure because I don't like angles. I love curved forms. I love the way light doesn't have a sharp angle on the human form. And of course we all run around in our own human forms, and so there we are every day dealing with our human form. I think it just the human form, especially the nude form, makes us take a closer look, so we have to figure out what that person or star of the painting is communicating.
Kikuko Young is a well-known figurative artist in the Fresno area. She has entered nudes in November many times, often winning awards. She, like many artists, has experienced a lack of camaraderie with her fellow artists. She especially misses giving hugs at openings to her friends. However, English is her second language, and she was not comfortable being interviewed. This year, Kikuko's watercolor painting, Glancing, took first place in the mixed painting category. For many artists, pigment comes alive in an oil medium on their canvas. Julia Rajo talks about the symbolism in her third place oil painting, Motions.
So my oil painting, Motions, is a self-portrait. The two heads represent the struggle that I have with being a mother and being an artist. Art is my life's passion. Being a mother is my love.
Lisa Greenstein explores the woman's vision in her second place painting, Model Thinking.
I'm painting, the models are women artists themselves. And so as a woman artist painting other women artists, it's a different kind of gaze than the traditional male gaze. And I feel also that I'm not looking at these women as objects. I'm looking at them as subjects, and I'm trying to not only see the beauty of light on their form and color, but the feeling, maybe the thoughts they were in.
Steve Austin, in his first place oil painting, Margot, explains why it is important for him to paint from live models.
And the advantage of working from live is that you actually see the structure and you interpret it. You interpret what you want to see or what you want to emphasize and what you don't want to emphasize. Working with photographs, the temptation is too much to work on detail or to focus on detail or to see things you didn't see before.
Photography started with black and white images. Using black and white film, Boston photographer Joe Green shot a series of portraits on one of the nude beaches in Martha's Vineyard in the 1990s with professional models. We asked Joe about his third place winning black and white photograph, Dogfish Beach Nude on Zoom.
Listen, what draws you into a lot of photographs is you connect with the person in the picture eye to eye. That's what humans do, right? I mean, animals too. We connect through the eyes initially. So by removing that part of the picture, that lets the viewer just look at everything else. Background, the model, whatever, whatever, the sand, whatever you're into. It lets you really appreciate um, what you're looking at by removing some of the personality, if you will.
Lance Pressey told us that he prefers to let his pictures talk for him. Here's Whitney's hands that took second place in black and white photography. Professional photographer and educator Carolyn DeAnda was one of the judges for the 18th annual Nudes in November. She explains the judges' pick for first place in black and white photography.
The image that spoke to me, I think, the most was I believe a platinum cyanotype, because there's so much process that goes into that. And there's so many different things that can go wrong in the process. So there's really a certain uniqueness. The quality and the subtle just nuances in the figure, in the image, were just really beautifully done.
We were able to do a Zoom interview with Barbara Hazen, who lives outside San Francisco.
And I wanted to bring my own unique voice to this genre, and what I've called sort of a femme poetry. I collaborate with my models, looking for hidden secrets and strengths and insecurities that we both might share. And before a shoot, we discuss intent, mood, or emotion. And then I let the model move in her own way until I see something that resonates. And the result, or I should say my intent, is a photograph that reflects my own beautiful and sometimes what I call a fractured feminine experience, and hopefully something that resonates to more than just me, maybe a universal one. And then finally, as I'm making these one-of-a-kind handmade alternative process prints, my intent again is to bring reverence to the genuine beauty of women.
Color is the new kid in photography, but in this digital age, Nico DiCarlo from New York City chooses to use film. She shares with us the importance of her first place image in color photography, The Final Goodbye. Again, we use Zoom to interview her on the other side of the country.
The Final Goodbye was taken during a period of my life when I was going through a very hard time. I was going through an addiction, and at the last minute, I decided to go on a trip to Texas, which I'd never been to before. And I feel like during that trip, it was completely eye-opening for me. It gave me a new sense of finding myself. It was extremely healing to me, and it just offered me something that I had been really desperately searching for. So when I took the final goodbye, it was my last day of my trip there. And I felt like it marked this really significant moment of saying goodbye to my past self and allowing space for my new self. This particular image, the color just sort of drew me in. First off, I wasn't even seeking it. And I just remember coming across this mountain and seeing this beautiful purple sky just completely encompass me. And it was a really beautiful moment. And I feel really lucky to have seen that. So.
Sculptors use a variety of materials to create their works of art. It varies from glass to clay to plexiglass to metal, and yes, to found objects. Myrna Axe tells us about her found object sculpture, Wine Queen, that took third place in sculpture.
I had a piece of wood that I created into a wine bottle shape, which pretty much mimics a head and a body, and that became my base. And from there, I found other pieces that made it work. Another piece of wood, like a carved piece of wood for the head, and then for the eyes, I used corks, and on top of that, I put the wires that you pop off of champagne bottles, corks going out quirky for the hair, just fun stuff. Wine glasses, plastic of course, coming out for the breasts. And then on the ends of those, this is fun because I love to do the whimsical the better. Wine charms that had little tiny wine bottles on them, almost for nipple tassels. And then I used the heavy wine bottles for the legs. So the arms were corkscrews attached to some wood, so it would sort of look like hands on those. So those were all fun things, and I even found a necklace that had the name of a winery and a name of a type of wine. So that completed the whole picture.
Vicki Avangello is passionate about getting her hands in clay. Her sculpture, Natural Wonderment, was voted second place. She tells us about the sculpture.
The story behind this sculpture, it's one of my first, and I love nature. And the title of it is Natural Wonder. And I just thought of how beautiful it is when we can go connect to nature. And I made her without clothes because I think that it's the closest connection to that nature. And I wanted to present it as innocent, like her first time out in nature. And she looks in wonderment of, what is this all about? And so she pretty much uses her hair to protect half of her body, but as she feels more comfortable, it seems like she's more turning and showing more of her sacredness.
Ebony Zarul uses coat hangers that she welds to create her metal sculptures. This sculpture was 9 months in gestation. Ebony talks about her first place winning sculpture, Dancer.
I was working on the acorn gatherer, life-size bronze that the city of Clovis was putting up, and I needed to do an armature for the basket for the baby, the papoose. And Chris Sorenson showed me how to weld coat hangers into the armature. And I just fell in love with the technique that you're recycling, and you're taking coat hangers and heating them up and melting them together and making a full, sturdy metal sculpture that can be any shape you want. And I could express myself with the forms that the coat hangers have a huge variety to do.
Our judges this year for the 18th annual Nudes in November were painter Mary Beth Harrison, photographer Carolyn Deanda, and sculptor Michael T. Murphy. They talk with us about their decision for Best of Show.
The black and white painting with the red hair that won Best of Show, to me, was such a complete work of art. It drew you in. It was fascinating. It was realistic and abstract at the same time. It was totally gorgeous. It would enhance anybody's home, and you would never get tired of looking at it. And that was the best piece in this show.
I think what impressed me was the quality of the pieces. I really feel that it is top-notch, professional, people paying attention to the quality of their particular media. And I think that's so important, to show your best work.
The oil painting that got Best of Show, when I saw it, it had that Picasso-esque kind of bits and pieces kind of work, but it's refined and clean, and the colors are, clean and outstanding. I thought it was really good quality work. That piece sticks out.
95-year-old Chris Sorenson has not been down to his studio because of the pandemic. He came down for the first time in 9 months to view the 18th annual Nudes in November and present the sculpture he made for the Best of Show award.
This is what I made for the trophy for the Best of Show, and I was my choice also. I can't use the MIG anymore or the plasma, so everything has to be done with a torch. I take a torch and cut it out and weld it together. No framework on this one. You can see both ways. And I like my new style here.
Laura Schwartz-Smith has been a previous winner in Nudes in November, but this is the first time she has won Best of Show. She talks with us about her oil painting Red and Gray 2, which was painted while sheltering in place during this pandemic.
Hi, this is my painting Red and Gray number 2, and I've named it that because the first version done from a live Zoom session in pastels, same size, it was 18 by 24, but I sold that. So our longest Zoom sessions are 45 to 55 minutes. So after I sold that one, I knew that I would want to do it in paint, where I could much more fully explore all the wonderful subtleties of warm and cool grays and neutrals. And also, I had a lot of fun doing some of what I call fracturing. I'm kind of dancing between abstract and realism. Of course, it's not all that abstract, but I call it fractured because I'm kind of cutting into forms and spaces and opening up some surfaces. And yet, I really do love realism as well. And I do love doing hands and feet. And so there's a lot of realism in here as well. But for me, that's part of the real fun of this challenge I give myself to make, say, a recognizable piece. It's very recognizable human, and even as the model, maybe a likeness, but also to make it somewhat abstracted.
Please stay tuned to this channel as we have other stories from the artists in the 18th Annual Nudes in November that we hope to share in future posts on these channels and our websites.